talk a fair bit on the Boundless Body about predictive sequencing and how the brain is a prediction and simulation organ and so on.
Your brain is gathering everything happening around you, but in a non-linear, non-logical way. It's like an open vortex that gathers what you see, what you smell, the texture, the taste, everything accessible through sensation during this instant of dissociation. The brain also records the physical sensation that you feel during this instant of dissociation. When the body finds itself in a situation when it recognizes one or several elements that were present during a past trauma, your brain, my brain, is going to predict instantly what physical sensations you're about to feel based on what you felt at the moment of the trauma. We call that interoception. We always control it. Either way, we try to shut it down, to hide it, or we try to talk our way through it, to think our way through it, or we numb it. It can be porn, it can be yoga, it can be meditation, but we never let this sensorial prediction plays out until the end in a safe place. And that's the key here, to let the interoceptive prediction play out until the end without any control from self or from an individual outside. At the end of the prediction that will last between 2 seconds and 90 seconds, the brain realizes that at the end of the prediction, you're safe and sound. Nothing happened to you. From that very instant, that prediction will be updated.
Welcome back to the Boundless Body. So check this out. 63.5% of you who are regular listeners haven't subscribed yet to the show. So please take a moment. It would be really helpful to click subscribe. It's free of charge. It will really help us out. In turn, we'll help you out by bringing you better and better content. Along those lines, send us an email with your feedback, boundlessbodypod@gmail.com. Send us your feedback about how you think we can do better. Give us questions to address on the show, interviewees you'd like us to interview. It'd be super helpful. Okay. Let's be a community. Cedric, welcome to the Boundless Body.
Well, thank you. Good to be here, Brian.
Really excited to have you here. You're up in Oakland, yeah?
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Close to Lake Merritt. That's where I used to have an office.
Yep. It's sunny in Oakland today.
Nice. So I'm going to just read your bio, as is the usual ritual, and then we'll get into talking about your work. Excited to have you here. Yeah. Cedric Bertelli is the founder of the Emotional Health Institute and co-developer of Emotional Resolution, i.e. MRES, a method that helps people resolve stress, anxiety, and emotional patterns by tapping into the body's natural capacity to heal. With over 15 years of experience, Cedric has trained thousands of practitioners worldwide and collaborates with institutions like UCLA on clinical research. Originally from France and now based in the US, Oakland, he leads EHI's work across the USA, France, and Japan. All right, so let's get in a time machine, shall we? And I want to go back to the time where, because a lot of us healer types, get into the field because of our own brokenness. Does that ring a bell at all for you?
Well, yeah. I wish you didn't ask, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, off to a good start already, right? Well, I mean, another way of asking that or prompting that is like, what brought you into the healing arts and sciences?
Yeah. I think it's like many people, probably it's an accumulation of things. Very early on, as a child and so on, I was very anxious. A lot of anxiety. I was an anxious child, an anxious teenager, and I learned to control it over time. On the anxiety was adding up a low-grade depression and a lot of self-directed anger. What I'm doing now is a second career. At first, up until my late 20s, I was for the Ritz-Carlton. I was a director of restaurants. So I started my career cooking and then serving and then going up until I was a food and beverage director for the Ritz-Carlton here in Half Moon Bay and in Portugal. I was doing well because all my stuff was pretty numbed by mostly alcohol for quite some time, which is very accessible in the business of restaurant. And it's not seen as a problem. It's seen as
a little bit for me, a little bit for the pasta.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And then you go out, and then after you go out, you come home by yourself, and you pop a bottle of white wine, and and then it is quote unquote cool to have a bottle of white wine and some pasta at 2 o'clock in the morning. You have to wake up at 6:30 to go back to work the next day. So you have a bunch of espressos, etc., etc. And it wasn't the only thing I was doing. I was seeing a psychotherapist the whole time, because I always was trying to better myself. Even in this other world, I was doing a lot of workshops, and I was really good at hiding what I was feeling. No one around me knew the way it was feeling inside. It was taking a lot of control, and it was taking a toll on my body as well. So after a while, in 2009, I decided to stop, to change. The economy was going down. I wasn't feeling in integrity anymore with my staff working for the Ritz. So, it just was a good time for me to stop that career. And I went back to France and starting studying somatic therapy. So that's the first thing. But something that was in my mind germinating from a very long time ago, from a while ago, sorry for my English, for a while ago, is being in connection with my grandfather. My grandfather, his name was Riccardo Bertelli. He passed away a couple of years ago. He's 101. And he was World War II veteran. He was fighting in what you call in French the maquis, which are the men who were hiding in the mountain, waiting for radio messages, and going to do some operation against the Nazi, then back, etc., etc. And my grandfather, if you could make a comparison, was like a Buddhist monk. Like the man was, quiet, working his garden, like a Buddhist monk. And I was always fascinated how him and a lot of men of his age were able to overcome the trauma of World War II. It always was fascinating to me. Not everywhere. It was the PTSD combatant from World War II, no doubt. Yeah. But the way that him and most of his friends were able to come out of it and have a process of resilience that is difficult to see nowadays in fighters, in warrior. I talked a lot with him when I was a young man and earlier. And later on, when I got to understand is, I think what happened to him and men of his generation who live in rural France, that's my experience, rural France. I come from a very small village, 80 people living in the forest. What I got to understand talking to him and later on doing the work that I do is that this process of resilience happened because after World War II, he spent with his colleagues a lot of time in nature, working, with a drive, bringing his family to another level of life. So I think working in nature among peers that never talked about war, never. The only thing I ever heard him say to friends is a friend saying, "Do you remember?" And him saying, "Yes." And that's it. There's only unspoken.
Uh-huh.
So working in nature with people who have a similar experience with a drive, that was, for some of those people, the one around me, that was the recipe for, I would say, a natural resilience. So that was always in my mind. And in my mind was like, why do I struggle so much with anxiety, with anger, when nothing, quote unquote, as bad as a war happened to me? I had a very nice childhood. And so that was always in my mind. Why do I have to go through therapy? Why do I have to do all those workshops? Why do I have to control so much? And men like my grandpa was able to nurture something within themselves to overcome a lot of the pain, the suffering. So these were kind of like the two pillars of my search and me shifting my career. I was convinced that something could happen in people naturally that allow this natural way of resilience. So anyway, that's kind of how I went to it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm moved by those stories and thinking about a couple things. You sound like you were a classical Epicurean.
Hedonistic, I would say.
Hedonistic Epicurean.
Yeah.
Well, there's this wonderful author named Thomas More. And Thomas More wrote this wonderful book about a kind of psychological Epicureanism. And it's actually about vocation. It's about career. It's called A Life at Work. It's a wonderful little book. And it's about basically looking for beauty, taking refuge in pleasure, which is a different framework of hedonism, right? It's kind of like, allowing and just kind of like savoring the pleasures of life, but without sliding into dependency and addiction.
That's what Epicureanism is, right? We use the term Epicurean as, at least in France, and I'm not sure here, but as people who overdo it, too much food, too much alcohol. But Epicure was not that at all. It was about just what you need to have joy, to have health, to have your mind open up. Nowadays in my life, I'm a big Epicurean, as much as I can, right? Yeah, yes. I've definitely
still cook a fair bit?
Yes, at home.
Maybe someday we could have a meal with our families or something like that.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Absolutely. I'd love to do that. Come over. That would be so fun. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the other thing that came to mind during your introductory comments was trauma really wasn't talked about as trauma until basically around the world wars. Around the big wars of the world, and it was actually a French author named Genet. I think he was a Frenchie, right? Genet?
Yeah.
He was an early writer on trauma. Yeah. And this was like when it wasn't really called trauma, it was called shell shock. I believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you're familiar with Genet?
Yes.
Can you say a little bit about that?
I think that's, I'm familiar, I guess, as much as you are. I know of the term shell shock. It was done by studying people coming after war and why the behaviors were different and trying to understand the why and how to, help them come out of it. I cannot go in great details about it. But that's the first awareness around PTSD that I think we can find.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just instructive that Genet was one of the earlier writers. If for those of you that are into academics out there and really like the kind of like to map how thoughts are developed over time, Ruth Lays has a wonderful book called The Genealogy of Trauma, and she traces the history of thought about trauma from Genet and before Genet. And by the way, am I butchering his name or am I saying it right?
No, Genet is correct.
Genet.
Yeah.
Okay. And how it's kind of evolved over time to become this kind of massive mega market that it is today. And, of course, he makes this claim that trauma discourse is so present now that it's actually become traumatizing.
I will kind of agree with it, no?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I love about somatics because, we work on trauma, we work on bodies directly, but we're really interested in emotion. Where are the clogged channels in terms of emotion? Where are we stuck in loops in the mind and the body? Where is our simulation system? We'll get into simulation and prediction, because that's at the heart of your model in terms of the theory background. And I'm really interested to hear about, what that looks like in practice. But a lot of, the tradition of somatic psychotherapy, tracing back to Reich, involves a lot of orientation to emotion and getting the emotion moving through the body and putting one back in touch with vitality.
That's right.
So I'm just wondering if you can talk about perhaps one of your early experiences receiving somatics work where, you got unclogged emotionally or something like that, or you're like, okay, this stuff is so powerful. I want to change my career. I want to do this work. You have anything that comes to mind along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually not in person. I did the first this type of work on Skype at the time, and it's because I looked at I don't have any degree in all that, right? So I need to find a way to enter the word that was really talking to me and that was pragmatic to me. So I did a session with a somatic therapist in France. The way that it was is he asked me specific questions to trigger an emotion. And as soon as the emotion came up, he brought my attention to the body, to the physical sensations, just the physical sensations, and to just be with the physical sensations without interfering with them whatsoever, without trying to breathe, without trying to stress, just being with the sensations. And we did that a couple of times. And it was a very short session. It was like 20, 25 minutes. At the end, it was like, okay, well, now let's take it some time and let's see how it impacts your life, which is still the way that I finished my work today. Saying, how long do you need to see the impact of the session on your life? Let's meet after so we can evaluate it together. And that's what happened. We work on a specific anxiety. I give it a couple of weeks, and that specific anxiety that I was feeling at work, still working at the Ritz, did not come back. So that was pragmatic. That was clear to me. So that was a click for me. I was like, okay, that is possible. How much is it possible? Toward what kind of emotion is it possible? Why is it possible? So let's study it. And that's what I've been doing since then. And then we created Immanence along the way. But yeah, that was the experience, the pragmatism.
Can you tell me about how Immanence started to come together, and you have a collaborator? Tell us about your collaborator, and maybe segue into this discussion about Lisa Feldman Barrett's work.
Sure. So I think if we trace the beginning of Immanence, the core of Immanence, it started by a gentleman called Jean-Paul Rességuier, who is a physical therapist down in south of France. He also worked in Italy, in hospitals. He has a clinic in Brazil. And the core of the work is what I described earlier, which is what he noticed is when you get some people to feel the sensations and be in a specific level of attention while they feel their sensations, the sensations start to move, to evolve, to abate, and what was present at the beginning of the session is not coming back. The work of Jean-Paul Rességuier was taken by another gentleman, another physical therapist called Didier Godot, who now lives in the Réunion, which is a small island by Madagascar, and who continued this work. And it was passed through me by Godot. And as we worked, we worked with Jacques Fumex, Dr. Jacques Fumex, who is gastroenterologist out of the University of Lyon in France, is now retired. But we started to build up this understanding on why, when someone stays with sensations until the end, at the end of the evolution of the sensations, whatever emotion was there is not there anymore. So that was the beginning. That was the beginning. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about what we understood and why we came to it? Okay.
For sure.
So first, our experience was just on the field, right? Working with people. What we really pay attention to, what we really put our effort on is how to retrigger specifically an emotion, right? How to retrigger specifically an emotion that somebody wants to resolve. So there's a specific way that we do it now. We use a memory, and we use a specific memory that is not a traumatic memory, a memory that is current. The theory behind that is you cannot heal trauma. Trauma happened. If I was raped, I was raped. What is it to rectify in that? It happened. Trauma happened. What's the point to go back into trauma? What can be resolved are the wounds that this trauma created in our life. So we only take situations happening currently in the person's life. It can be flashback, it can be anxieties, it can be fear, etc., etc. But we take the person the way they are now, because anyway, all the memories are in the flesh. We can go into that later. So that was our focus first, right? How to retrigger specifically emotions. And we found a good technique to do that. Later on, since 2020, we created other methodologies to uncover unconscious fear. See, for me, fears are on three levels. There's the conscious fear, so to speak, which is the emotion that we're aware of, the anger, the frustration, what we recognize and are able and willing to face. Then there are the unconscious fears, the one that we can find, but we don't like to look at. The jealousy, the shame, the guilt, all those emotions that run in the background. Conscious, unconscious, and subconscious. Subconscious are emotions that do not have a name. Subconscious are lived within us through tension. For example, if I meet you for the first time and I don't know anything about you, but there's a feeling in me, tension, I'm going to take this tension and make up a story out of them. I'll say, well, I don't know about Brian. There's something about him I don't know about. All it is probably
because Americans is always a narcissistic American and is one of those loud Americans.
I'll make up a story no matter what. Maybe it's your physique, maybe it's your voice, maybe it's where you're coming from, but I'll make a story.
Yeah.
But what it is when I come toward you, I have tension. And this tension that I feel might just be because of a specific smell. And that's where we're going to go into Barrett-Feldman, right? There's a specific smell about you that remind my body, my brain of something that happened to me. Mm-hmm. Now, those subconscious emotions are not easy to find because they don't have a name often. They just come as tension and they create the dynamics of our life. Our subconscious emotions have much more power over us than the conscious emotion. You know, it's Van Gogh, the painter, who said, our smallest emotions are the captains of our life. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Rewind and say it a little bit slower. This is where some reason your accent is really coming through. So slow down, say it again. I want to really hear it.
What Van Gogh said?
Yeah.
He said, and with that accent, actually, when he said, our smallest emotions are the captain of our life as we obey them without noticing them.
Yeah. And smell is such a big captain, you know, like a big muscly captain or something like that, because somebody once said that smell is one of the first emotions in evolution. It's a really interesting thought, hey?
Reflective. Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting thought. So I think you're bringing us in the direction of this predictive processing paradigm, you know, and I talk a fair bit on the Boundless Body about predictive sequencing and how the brain is a prediction and simulation organ and so on. And that's not particularly new. It is for some, but Feldman Barrett was one of the, I suppose, early-ish researchers in the field of predictive sequencing or predictive processing. So maybe you could segue what you just said about the sensory experience and the emotion and the here and now with how that gets into prediction. And
I'm going to try to vulgarize what Feldman Barrett, who was a big voice. I think she was a big voice and she got a lot of heat for that as well at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the theory of constructed emotion, she basically saying, you know, and she's going up against the basic emotions viewpoint, which is still pretty much in vogue. And, you know, I actually still teach basic emotion methods. And I just think it's a functional heuristic, explanatory paradigm for clients, you know, to just kind of, give them a kind of lay of the land. What emotion could it be? Could it be, you know, mad, sad, glad, afraid? You know, just to give people a basic language so that they can at least try to name the unnameable.
Yes.
But Feldman Barrett came in and basically said, no, actually, you know what? Your emotions, they're a story, right? Basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if I can vulgarize, at least my way, the way that she explained, and jump in, because I think your expertise here is gonna be super good. What she tells us in a way is, we know today how emotions are made. We understand, at least for now, it might change, but from our understanding, we understand how the brain constructs emotion. So we have two things to keep in mind. Number one, the brain constantly predicts. That's what keeps us ahead of the game. Yeah. The brain constantly predicts. And we have to keep in mind that the brain constantly updates predictions. This is how we learn. So I always take the example that she takes, which is, let's say you go down the street to get an ice cream in a new shop. You enter the store, and as it's a new stop, you have all those batches of ice cream, but no label. And one of the ice cream is pink, one is brown, one is white, And so you get in, and I love strawberry ice cream, so I decide to go for the pink batch. And I think, okay, it's going to be strawberry, raspberry, or something like this. And I got a scoop of it, come out, I'm very happy. I got my little wooden spoon because it's San Francisco, so, better than most other cities. So I go out with my wooden spoon, I take a bite of the pink ice cream, and as soon as it touches my palate, it's disgusting because
It's bubble gum.
It's smoked salmon.
That sucks.
It's smoked salmon ice cream. It's disgusting. Well, it's only disgusting because I was predicting some kind of fruity flavor, right? And I taste it. It's disgusting. But how many little tiny spoon of this ice cream do I need to know until I'm proven wrong that in this store, the pink batch is smoked salmon ice cream? I need one bite. In one bite, my prediction is updated. So the prediction is updated very specifically. It doesn't say that every pink batch in the world is smoked salmon ice cream. No, it says that in the store, the pink batch is smoked salmon and is going to inform my life forever, which is if I enter in a store, I see something, there's no label, I'm not going to assume what it is. I'm now going to take this experience and apply it to the rest of my life. So this very simple experience gave me a clear information about the store and inform the rest of my life in the way that I will approach the same type of situation. This experience happened with absolutely no stress. The brain was able to take it, assimilate it, and I'd be able to act out of it. That's a prediction. Well, that's the first thing. The brain predicts constantly. The brain constantly updates prediction until we die, most of the time. Second thing we got to understand is we know today how a debilitating emotional pattern is created. We understand, at least for now, it might change, that at the origin of any debilitating emotional pattern is always an instant of trauma. So what is trauma? And that's my definition. I don't think it's so. It might be, who knows? But what I say often is trauma is an instant that holds too much stress, physical or emotional, for us to take on at the moment when we live it. That's what it is. It's just too much, so we shut down in a way. That for me is what trauma is. Do you want to jump in on that? Maybe
you keep going. Good.
Okay. So now the problem is not the trauma. The problem are the instants of dissociation during the traumatic event. During a traumatic event, we're going to dissociate. If I'm being sexually abused for 5 minutes, I guarantee you, and you know that working with people, that you're going to dissociate several times. You're going to go in and out, in and out, in and out. So, couple of numbers. What we are aware of right now is about 2,000 bits of information per second processed at a speed of 150 miles per hour. These are the numbers from the Penn University. They date of 2012, but the scale is always the same. So consciously, 2,000 bits of information per second processed at a speed of 100 to 150 miles per hour. Subconsciously, the brain has a potential to gather 400 billion pieces of information per second, processed at a speed of 150,000 miles per hour. So the prefrontal cortex is used as a filter. So you and me, we can have this conversation so we can live in society. If not, we'll be bombarded by sensorial information. We will not be able to live. When there is an instant of trauma and the stress is too high, there is a natural process happening that we call dissociation. When we dissociate, basically, we could say that the hippocampus, all this part of the brain, shut down for a little bit so we don't suffer too much during this instant. During this instant of dissociation, during this blackout, we could say, the subconscious takes over. So imagine like a whirlpool of information opening up, your sense completely in high awareness. Your brain is gathering everything happening around you, but in a non-linear, non-logical way. It's like an open vortex that gathers what you see, what you smell, the texture, the taste, everything accessible through sensation during this instant of dissociation. The brain also records the physical sensation that you feel during this instant of dissociation. And it's like a window open for a few seconds and then shut down. And then open again and shut down. Okay, so this happens. And the more I work, the more I see that this happens a lot in our life. From the moment of conception, I would say, until we die, those moments of dissociation happens a lot. Okay, so this happened. Those type of trauma happen, and a lot happen, especially in the first 1,000 days of life, I would say. We can talk about that after, if you want to, if you wish. But this happened a lot. Later on, when the body finds itself in a situation where it recognizes one or several elements that were present during a past trauma, your brain, my brain, is going to predict instantly what physical sensations you're about to feel based on what you felt at the moment of the trauma. So here I'm going to take a little break for a second to make a parallel. Let's take food. Let's say for the first time of my life, I eat a Granny Smith apple. You know those green apple, very, very tart?
Yeah.
And I take a bite, maybe I'm 6 years old, and I have this first experience, the crunchiness, the juice, the acidity. I didn't expect it. First experience. Later on, 6 months after, 1 year after, 10 years after, when I see this apple, a similar apple, and I'm about to bite it, I don't need to bite it. I know exactly what sensations I'm about to experience. I know that because of interoception. My brain is predicting the experience that I'm about to have. This happens with every non-food. It is the same with emotion, right? When the body is exposed to one element that was present during a past trauma, your brain is going to predict and generate, just like for the apple, what physical sensations you're about to feel based on what was felt during that event. Those physical sensations, we feel them. We call that interoception. That's how we know that we feel emotions. We know that we feel emotion because we feel them in our body. Those physical sensations is nothing else, so to speak, than an outdated prediction from the brain. The concept of MRES is quite simple. It is what we notice is when we feel an emotion that we don't like, let's say anxiety or fear, we always control it. Either way, we try to shut it down, to hide it, or we try to talk our way through it, to think our way through it, or we numb it. For me, it was alcohol. For other people, it can be porn, it can be yoga, it can be meditation, it can be a session. Or we try to numb it or to regulate it one way or another. There's nothing wrong with all those things, but they're used to regulate those emotions that we don't like. But we never let this sensorial prediction plays out until the end in a safe place. And that's the key here, to let the sensorial prediction, the interoceptive prediction, play out until the end without any control from self or from an individual outside. At the end of the prediction that will last between 2 seconds and 90 seconds, at the end of the prediction, when there is no control from anyone, the brain realizes that at the end of the prediction, you're safe and sound. Nothing happened to you. From that very instant, that prediction will be updated.
So this isn't a cathartic paradigm. This is a containment paradigm, insofar as you don't have people beating up pillows and so on.
No, because that's a way to control. If I'm angry and I scream and I punch something, that's a way to release the tension in my body. If I beat up, and I did a lot of pillow beating in my time. You know, I did some men group, I did tantra, I did high. I don't know if you know high. I did all.
Let's qualify for the listeners, because we're throwing around a lot of terms here. So like high, let's qualify that term. What's high?
High is Human Awareness Institute.
Yeah. What do they do there? What do they do there, Cedric?
I guess they aim to teach you how to be a better communicator and to be more intimate with one and others in different exercises.
And to be better at sex, I suppose.
That too. Yes, that too. Yeah, that too.
By beating up pillows, and it's a cathartic methodology, right? I talk about, catharsis and containment being kind of like two basins or bins that we can put a lot of healing modalities in. Is it a catharsis model or a containment model?
Got it.
And of course, that's reductionistic, but there's benefits. I like to say there's benefits on both sides.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, it was when I came from rural France in my early 20s and I was introduced to high, I can tell you it was very beneficial to me.
Oh, yeah.
It was very beneficial. I would not be the man that I am today, I think.
Yeah.
At the time, with this type of workshop, I think, it really break the shell. I mean, I came from a very different environment. No.
Yeah, I'm imagining I grew up in not rural Minnesota, but suburban Minnesota. And I'm wondering if in rural France that the boys grow up often quite repressed. So like for me, when I found some of these cathartic release-based cathartic therapies, it was very freeing for me to break out of the shell and get intense about it. And then later I got into more like a Buddhism thing and focused more on containment and mindfulness. And so what I'm getting from you is that MRES works this interoception, this kind of shuttling into this, we could say, in network neuroscience, it's called the salience network, okay? Where you're directing the spotlight of attention into the inner sensations in the body. And then you're getting nuanced, You're getting nuanced with the sensations in the body. And what you're saying is that after about 10 to 90 seconds or so, that whatever emotion it was, let's say let's take road rage as an example. Let's say somebody, because I have some clients and there's people out there on the road that suffer from road rage. This guy says, when they cut me, when I get cut off, I just feel like this, but he can't demonstrate it psychodramatically like that. He's in this held position.
Yeah.
So what would you be doing? How would you be bringing this person through this interoceptive process with, for example, road rage?
Mm-hmm. So the rage, so to speak, is a consequence of the fear, right? When we want to rage, it's just a way to release the tension that is created by fear at the beginning. What I will do with this person, I will ask him for a specific time when that happened, lately. And I will ask him to describe to me in the present tense what happened in the beginning, when it started feeling the rage, right?
This is exactly what I do. I get people to talk about memories in the present tense.
Of course, it's a trick, right?
It's counterintuitive to people. Let's discuss with the audience why we both do that.
Because when you talk about something in present tense, the brain cannot really make the difference. And did that happen a while ago or is it now, right? It creates confusion and is going to retrigger specific interoception. So the key here is not to go to the peak of the emotion. Because the peak of the emotion, when the person feels the rage most, is usually an accumulation of emotion, or is what is felt when the person tries to control what they feel. The key here, for me at least, is to go at the beginning. When did the body first add where is the stimulus?
Mm-hmm.
What's the stimulus? Come to the stimulus the closest, because that's going to be the entrance. The cleaner the stimulus, the cleaner the resolution will be. And you're going to be
often it's the first eye shot of the person kind of approaching from behind. Yeah. The first boom. And then we have the predictive sequencing.
That's it. So that's it. That's the corner there. That's all you need. You need to talk about this. And then right away, the sensations in your body.
There's a sudden surge, often a sudden upsurge of intensity.
That's right. The surge is the wave, but the wave is not enough. The wave going nowhere. The wave is, we ride the wave, right? We beat up the pillow, we scream. So we ride the wave and we take it to the shore and we crash on the shore every single time. So let's not take the wave. We're going to go at the beginning of the wave, the very beginning, but instead of riding the wave, we're going to go deep in the current, in the flesh. Where is it in the flesh? Now, and that's when the work starts, right? Keep your attention sharp and engaged. Don't go into stories. And that's what the practitioner, the MRS practitioner will do, is help the person to go to just say what's happening inside, to not observe even, but to become the sensations. And to become the sensations until they change, and sometimes they get stronger and sometimes it's really painful, and then they go away.
You had their eyes closed during these processes?
Most of the time, sometimes when I work with people who have CPTSD, complex PTSD, people who lived in the street for a long time, homelessness, it is difficult for them to keep their eyes closed because they feel unsafe. In these cases, I work with them with open eyes, or I get them to open their eyes at some point in the process. So the brain is still aware of the safe environment, and they can still keep enough attention into the sensations.
Nice.
Yeah. Emetophobia, for example, is emetophobia, the fear of throwing up, is something that I wasn't able to treat until I got the patients or the clients to work with open eyes.
Yeah, vomiting phobia is fairly common. I see it fairly often in my private practice, and I've been able to,
fear of poison.
Fear for sure.
Fear of poison is very,
predictive. Again, it's that predictive model of the brain. And I really appreciate your presentation style, Cedric. Like, you're not boring. There's no boring presenters out there. I really like your intensity. There's a sense that, hey, this model isn't just about containment. That's my critique of the containment models is that the intensity of being and having a body can sometimes get suppressed. Even though they're saying, oh, well, we're emotionally literate, we're kind of exercising empathy. But the goal of a lot of those methodologies, containment methodologies, is self-regulation, as if the whole goal of being is to kind of be regulated and calm, which is only part of the picture, right? I mean, we want to have our joys, our delight, our ecstasy, our bliss.
Absolutely. For me, the intensity is definitely core to this work. You have to be intensely attentive to your client. And in the last years, what I've been developing a lot, studying Bergson, studying Spinoza, and they talk about intensity a lot. So being intensely attentive, not to the person, but to the mass in front of you. They talk about the mass, the flesh, be attentive to the mass in front of you. That's right. And the same way, it's very Chinese too, right? Being attentive to the mass, through your mass, to the mass. So you don't get too interested into the story. Bring your attention to the mass.
The mass. It's an energy, right?
That's right. That's right.
We're in a universe here, folks.
You've got that l'élan vital in French, right? The life momentum, that's it. And it's also important for the client to be intensely feeling. A resolution can fail and will fail if the client is not intensely feeling. If they're not intensely feeling, if they think about something else, they become passive. And nothing happens in passivity. They need to be intensely attentive to what's going on in their body. In alchemy, they use the term athanor. Athanor is the name of the oven that the alchemists use to create a transformation. An athanor is an oven that can maintain a constant temperature for a very long time. In MRES, there's a double athanor. The client have to create their own athanor with feeling the intensity of what's going on in the flesh, and the practitioner has to have another athanor of intensity, of attention, in what is happening for the client or in the client. So we create a matrix, I call that the matrix of attention. We seal a matrix of attention where sensations can evolve until the end of this prediction. But yes, I agree with you. Intensity. Often people, when I talk about emotional resolution, they tell me, so what? You want to resolve the emotion and then what do you become, a robot? I said, no, that's not what it's all about. What it's all about is most of the time we are wasting life because we are overwhelmed by emotions that belong to the past. And because we are overwhelmed by emotion that belongs to the past, we do not enjoy the emotion that are given by our current life. If I am with my daughter who is 4 years old and all she wants to do is play, and while she deserves my attention and I should be with her, I think about, I don't know, my taxes, or I think about something else, and I feel
trying to set up an appointment with somebody.
Get it together.
I'm on task here. I'm on task.
So you're overwhelmed by something that is not congruent to the experience. So the goal of MRES, the aim of MRES, is to feel the emotions that are congruent with our current reality. That's what it's all about. So if you see something sad, then you feel sad, but it's not going to linger with you. You're going to feel sad, and then it's going to integrate.
Well, you got that on your side. MRES isn't boring. I'm glad. I got 2 thumbs up on the intensity and on the vitality. And I'm feeling the Athenor here, the Athenor space of us. This kind of alchemical alembic, this container where we're circulating stuff. And
that's right.
I really appreciate that you're drawing also from these philosophical traditions. Like Spinoza, you named Spinoza and Bergson, and of course those two converge with my hero Deleuze, who's my favorite Frenchie,
After me?
After you. Well, I mean, you're here now. In a cosmic sense, I suppose he could be with us,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but one of the things I love about Deleuze is his deep understanding. Even though his work is so deeply intellectual, there's a sense somehow weirdly, complexly, that it's also deeply embodied.
Yeah.
That everything is immanent.
That's right. We talk about that a little bit, you and I, and it's something that made me vibrate when I discovered it. Again, because these people, Deleuze, Bergson, Spinoza, Lisa Feldman Barrett, were able to put concept on things that I've been experiencing personally and with clients. It was like, yes, of course, and more understanding and more intimacy with the flesh of the work, with the others. I was about to say something very powerful, but I forgot.
Of the word or the world?
Intimacy of the word.
The word. I love that. Yeah, where the word has flesh and the flesh has word. I just like that embodied communication, embodied speaking.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious about, by way of continuing the discussion about intensity, and the nature of trauma is such that, or one way of understanding, there's dissociation, yes, absolutely. And then there's also fragmentation, where the person loses their container, where, for example, they're speaking about something, or they're in the flow of experience, or let's stick with the road rage thing. Some people can just, feel their frustration, keep it in the cooker and just kind of let it go. Take a breath, let it go. Maybe have some cognitive resources and reframe the situation. Tell themselves something about who that person is or where they're going or something like that. Other people will fragment. And this is distinct, but not separate, I think, from dissociation, because, in road rage, for example, you don't see people dissociating and crashing. You know what I mean? Like gone. They're all fragmented.
Yeah.
And then if you actually tried to have a conversation with them, we phoned them up right now and they somehow could answer. And we asked them, what's the name of your dog or something?
Yeah, they can't.
You just put it into order. So sometimes when the intensity is even if you get at the low point of the wave, the more traumatized a person is, as the intensity ramps up, they'll fragment. Just wonder if you got some tips and tricks for the therapists out there and people out there that fragment.
It depends of our experience. So I think for some people, the first experience of fear when they see the car coming from behind, for some people, they're going to have an experience of fear and feel this first wave of intensity of emotion. But then this wave of intensity is not going to echo on another experience. These people, I think, will be the one who will feel the fear, and then, okay, so calm down and continue. This first experience will not echo on something else. For other people, and that's just a theory, I have no proof of that, obviously, but for those other people, this first wave of fear, feeling that creates another fear. Like maybe it's a loss of control. So that's going to echo another experience that happened to them. And you have a new wave of sensation. It's an accumulation of emotion in a way that make you lose it. That makes you fragment, you say, to make you go for fragmentation. You can see that with little kids, for example, right? We taught MRES here in Marin County, with the Marin County Office of Education. We taught MRES to teachers, how to do MRES with little kids. And what we noticed is the only time teachers were doing it with little kids is when the children were having a tantrum. And that didn't work, right? That didn't work. No. And we cannot blame the teacher because it's 1 or 2 people for 25 or 30 kids, you know?
Yeah.
And what we notice is they did MRES when the child has a tantrum, not to help the child, but because the tantrum is disturbing them, right? So it's natural. So they try to shut it down because it's too much. But the tantrum doesn't happen from 0 to 100 right away. It's like it started in the morning, something happened at home, and then something happened in the classroom. And it's just an accumulation. And at some point, they can't take it anymore. And we saw 6 years of throwing table across the room, you know? It doesn't happen that quick. It's like the guy in the car, right? We see it happening as quick, but it's an accumulation. It resonates into past experiences. It's an accumulation of tension, and the person cannot take it anymore. And then they lose it. They lose it. We studied in France emotions with horses. We work with a veterinarian. Her name is Dr. Naila Sherino, fantastic woman. She's teaching MRES to farmers in France who work with cows, ponies, and horses. And they do MRES sessions with horses. And the way they working with horses, we understood a lot of things about humans as well. Can I give you an example? Let's say a farmer called Dr. Sherino because a pony is afraid of being clipped. They have to clip their pony every year after the winter. If not, it's not healthy. Okay. This pony has a fear of being clipped. It will not let the farmer clip him. So Dr. Sherino will come to resolve the fear of the pony. And the way she will do is she put the pony in a closed fence, I guess. First, she presents herself at the door of the fence. She checks that she has no tension. If she does an MRES. She enters the fence with the pony, and she observes the pony the whole time. And what she's looking specifically is the eye of the pony. The first sign of mammals, the first sign of fear in a mammal, do you know what it is? They stop blinking. It's the same for humans. That's why in MRES, the first step when you do self-MRES is you ask the person to close their eyes. And if they cannot close their eyes peacefully, the body doesn't feel safe. So when you do MRES, we self-MRES, when we teach people to do it on themselves, it's most important that they be able to close their eyes without worry about it. If not, it's not going to work. So to go back to Dr. Sherino, she enters, she observes the eyes of the pony. If he stops blinking, she stops. She doesn't move. And the pony will start to have strange reactions, such as the skin is moving, hair flapping, stepping on places. That's going to take a few seconds. Then she's going to move slowly, take the clipper, stop as soon as there's a sign of fear. The pony is doing his MRES, so to speak, is processing his emotion. And she's going to do that slowly and slowly until she can put the clipper on the pony and shave the pony. What she noticed is what the farmer notices or sees as one emotion, most of the time is in between 9 and 12 MRES. That means what we conceptualize as one emotion, for example, road rage, in the brain, it might be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 emotions being triggered one after another. So to answer I think your question was, how do I treat
the fragmentation when somebody gets on the wave and they immediately fragment?
So we will slow down with MRES, right? We will do first the very beginning when the car comes, and then I will put the person in a little bit of a light trance, so to speak, right? Feel the sensations. They will be already in a trance once they feel this first emotion, and then I will ask questions, specific questions, based on what the client might have told me, without thinking about it. When you see somebody coming behind
you. Now,
you,
the word trance scares some people. I use different depending, and it could be an English connotation. The connotation is with hypnosis. Some people have a hypnosis phobia. God bless my mom, but she has a deep phobia about being put out. So when I took a hypnosis class, she was freaked that I would just like in the middle of the conversation or something like that, like hypnotize her and her ego would be gone or something like that. And I'd make her cluck like a chicken or something like that.
Did you do
like you're talking about a deep state of relaxation that you're inviting people into as you get in, slowing things down and so on.
Yes, you can say that. I mean, trance happens all the time, right?
Sure.
Trance happens when you pray. Trance happens when you meditate.
Or trance is the rule, not the exception.
Correct. Trance happen every 90 minutes, actually. When we phase out, the brain needs that to recover energy.
Yeah.
So what we do with MRS, when they feel all the sensations at once and give it all the attention, that's a sensorial trance. The cognitive has nowhere else to be but in the flesh. So you can't think and feel at once. So for me, when they enter the flesh and they feel all those sensations, they dissolve their attention in the sensation, they enter into a state of trance. There's the difference. So I never ask the client to relax. Because when you ask a client to relax, they take control. I don't want them to take control over their state. I want them to be intimate with it, to penetrate it. So I never ask a client to relax or to sit comfortably or none of that.
And you don't say, okay, it's time to go into a trance.
No. I don't pull out my drum either.
Unless it was somebody, I wrote my little joke on the piece of paper here, which is not really a joke. Cedric, the salience network surfer. Because, the core node in the brain of the salience network, which the salience network in the brain is reading out interoception, and is the insular cortex, the insula. And that insula, which is, here's the core of the brain, wraps around it just like this. And the work that you're doing is going to be lighting up this region, the insula, like a Christmas tree. And a lot of the structures, of course, from the prefrontal cortex and so on, feed into the insula, so that we have this top-down, like narrative-based elements, the stories that we make about what's happening down here and so on, feed into the insula, and then, of course, impact our map, hence prediction. They impact our prediction about what's going to happen next. And now I was thinking about drug dependency and addiction, because actually, there's a similar dynamic as what we're talking about here, that, and I like calling it the expectation high. So like, you're about ready to light up a joint or something like that. And before you even take a puff, or before you even probably start the lighter, what's going to happen is that the brain is going to be predicting that super deep, wonderful, experience in the past, and predicting that in the future, when usually what happens, or, it's certainly almost never going to be as good as that time that keeps you coming back. So I think we can apply a lot of the same thinking to addiction and dependency, because that's what the brain is doing, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, there's a great guy, I'm sure you know, in Mark Lewis, The Biology of Desire. I agree with you 100%. Even drinking water, it takes 30 minutes for the body to integrate the water. So when you're thirsty and you drink a certain amount of water, Feynman talk about that actually. It's you predicting when you have enough water to quench your thirst. But it's not the water that you drink that quench your thirst. It's a prediction of how much you're going to drink that's going to quench the thirst that you have. Isn't it amazing? Even drinking.
Yeah, a lot of things are amazing because, even if we, and this is where I think it might take a really trippy cosmic philosophical turn, like the way that the brain works is that even if we direct attention to sensory experience in, for example, your body right now, and I directed your attention to what you're feeling in your chest, and then you told me the moment that your mind and your brain gets the conscious access to the sensory experience, we're way downstream from when it happens. So there's that, we can't even really say here and now. And because the way that, and it's similar to what you're talking about, the unconscious has so much data and so much information, and it's traveling at such extraordinary speeds that even when we're reading out what we think is happening in present time, we're way downstream from what we're reading out. Yeah. And that's so weird. So it's like, I mean, I do this work all the time too, Cedric. I mean, there's a lot of overlap between our work, but in the cosmic sense of things, we're actually doing history. We're actually still doing history.
It's exactly what it is. I tell my clients often, it's like the body is like a time machine. It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
It's like part of you is in here, 2025, and some part or maybe in 1982. It's a time machine, and every time you feel an emotion, is like the window is open to travel in time. You can do that with imagination. You can do that cognitively. Let the sensation take you there. Take you to this moment of your life. It's there. It's all in the flesh. When we talked about the guy really losing it with road rage, the way that I see emotions in my mind is like circles. So there's small circles, and then circles all around. And the goal for me is to be able to live life from the inner circle and to bring all those experiences of life with us. So being informed by our trauma, our history, without being overwhelmed by it. But what's happening is when, for example, for this person who is losing it, is not in the middle center. He is not in the middle circle. He is one of the circle, like 20, 30 years ago. Is that part of his brain is 5 years old. Part of his body is 5 years old. It's an extreme state of confusion. It's an extreme state of confusion. He's having a foot now and 20 or 30 years ago. What helped me building Immanence as well, we're going to go back to your champion, Deleuze, is a concept of the body without organ. Is when I work with somebody, I plant the seed of this idea that to close your eyes and to enter, to feel the sensations in your body, and to really enter the body and the flesh as if it was an immense space without any organs or bones. To dehumanize what's happening inside, as if it was a substance. Because within this flesh, you have so many memories, right? Memories of yours, memory of maybe your parents, your grandparents. So what I found is when the person can really feel the entirety of the body, not as their body, but as an immense space without any organs, to take back the word of Deleuze, is you can access those memory with much more grace, because you're not attached to your own history, valuing your own trauma, it's just, you just become a substance, malleable, not related to you anymore. And Deleuze talk about the plane of immanence, the plan d'immanence, which in immanence, you can explain that much better than me, I'm sure, but in a simple way is the reverse of transcendence. It's not looking for something out, but looking for something within, the immanence within. And it's what Immanence does, right? It's getting this attention in a specific moment, right? In the crack of the emotion. Each emotion for me is a crack. Entering the crack with your attention, immersing in this body without any organs, feeling all the sensations, the momentum, the tension, until they dissipate. Finding St. Francis of Assisi talk about the very low. You enter and you go inside the very low of the flesh, and you come out on the other hand. Of course, it's metaphorical, but not so much. Entering the flesh as an immense space without any organs, to find this plane of immanence.
Yeah, to speak of addiction, our species is deeply addicted to transcendence. Deeply, deeply addicted. So if there was a 12-step group for all of humanity, it would be Transcendence Anonymous. That this idea that if we clear the trauma enough and do enough psychotherapy, that will arrive, or, something like that, whatever it is, even the ego, even saying I, or even if we say we're kind of cutting ourselves out of the fabric. Now,
Beautifully said.
One of the pieces that is just so genius about Deleuze is his understanding of the subconscious. It's a real different packaging of what the unconscious is. And he and Guattari are basically saying, the unconscious, what is it? It's physics, and that, this body without organs is a zone of intensity that will never be repeated. It's a multiplicity. It's a zone of intensity of trillions and trillions of cells. And, there's so much focus on the nervous system, right? And trauma and all that, but we got other systems, of course, and it's an integrated whole. Nature doesn't really speak in systems talk. It just is an integrated fabric of multiplicities and intensities and relationships. And then so what they're saying, what they're orienting us to, Deleuze and Guattari, is like these moments of language acquisition in us as a species, when we're just acquiring language as a species, but also developmentally as infants and toddlers, as we're moving into language acquisition. Because as soon as I learn how to say mom or me or Cedric or something like that, but we've actually painted over with narrative and language and labeling, we've painted over the actual plane of immanence.
Yes.
We've painted over the actual intensities, the actual sensations in the body. And now we have a labeling system, which is a system of transcendence, right? So if I say mom, okay, I'm no longer as much in this space of deep relationship, in this milieu, in this, what did you call it? Athenor? This alchemical image of, this transference space of intensities and communication of information and, breastfeeding or whatever it is, where different multiplicities are plugging into different multiplicities. We just have a word for it. And I could say, you can say, oh, Brian's an American. You're a Frenchman, and then lose so much of what actually is there over there with you right now. And then we're transcendent again. Transcendent. And even, folks that, it's becoming so popular, and I like to bash a little bit because they're an easy target in my view, is the so-called non-dual spirituality, which I think is weird and schizophrenic because it's a very dualistic term to name yourself the thing that you're not, even though it's a dualist terminology. That, transcendent thinking is our obsession. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in psychology, it's in science, it's in clinical practice, and it's been there since the beginning.
It's what makes us human in a way, right? It's what human became.
Yeah.
It's going back to substance.
Yeah, this sort of existentially confused mammal where we think we're transcendent of other mammals or something. Yeah, we're transcendent in our specialness and so on. But really, we're going to just become dust anyway.
That's right.
And
we're losing so much of the connection with the ecosystem because we think so much of ourselves. We are so disconnected. If we were not disconnected from the global ecosystem, we will not live life the way that we live it.
Yeah.
Merleau-Ponty talked about the flesh of the word, and he said, there's one flesh, and you're just a tiny fold in the flesh of the word. We are just, a tree is a fold, you're a fold, I'm a fold. But the concept of being alone, I would say 75% of the people who come to see me, at the core, the pain is that they feel isolated. Maybe they feel isolated because of the neglect they had as a kid. They feel isolated because they got screwed one too many times by a family member, by a coworker, by a friend, but you feel isolated. And from this isolation, it's a very fertile ground for every fear to bloom and take over. What Merleau-Ponty tells us is that the concept of being alone doesn't exist. It's impossible. We are constantly interconnected in a constantly evolving ecosystem. And we become depressed, we become anxious because we stop being in the constant momentum of the ecosystem. And François Roustan also talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I really like that image of a fold in the tissue of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah,
fold
in the flesh of the world. The fold in the flesh of the world. We're never disconnected. We only disconnect ourselves conceptually through transcendence, as you just explained very well.
Fold in the flesh of the word. Yeah. That's really deep. That's really, really deep. Fold in the flesh of the word. So if we could fold and then I took it in the direction, and I think it's for good at this moment, where your accent actually translated for me flesh of the world. In Deleuze, you see a lot of this talk about how you have like the world, the biosphere itself being a body without organs. And then you have nested within it all of these other bodies without organs. And what he means by that is molecular physics, molecular dynamics happening, quantum dynamics happening, and there's all these zones of intensity that are differentiated. Of course, differentiated zones of intensity, organs, species, and so on. But you have the whole world as a biosphere directly inside of us. We are folded. We are a fold in the flesh of the world as well. So it doesn't matter. It's like it fits quite nicely. And it's interesting, that little kind of like translation that I'm doing with your accent, that both are true.
Yeah.
Fold in the flesh of the word, a fold in the flesh of the world.
That's right.
That there's a fold happening, and that actually brings us to Foucault.
Foucault. Yeah. I'm not a specialist of Foucault, so please, by all means, go for it.
Well, I mean, Foucault's genius was about understanding micro-fascism, how we all become the little neighborhood policemen about what is okay to say and not say. Like micro-fascism, and then Deleuze picked up Foucault, and there's this deep discussion about how policing is just a very central dynamic to our social interaction. In-group, out-group policing, and what words need to be said or can't be said or should need, to be in the in-group as opposed to the out-group. And all this stuff isn't just for the beauty and the wisdom and the depth of these folks that seem at first blush to be really intellectual is that this stuff is folded into the body. The body is profoundly social. Like I like to say in class, I like to say that the superego, the rule maker in the psyche, writes itself onto the flesh. And that's not abstract. That's just like, when we're getting potty trained and our anal sphincters are getting coordinated, that's in a social field. And the rules about where and when and how we need to take a crap, okay? Those rules that are social rules literally get written into the neuromusculature of our sphincters.
And that's why we repeat the same patterns over and over, generations after generation, in different flavor, but it's always the same thing.
Yeah. Yep. And, back to the specialness and transcendence addiction, it's probably better to just do your best to be humble with being in the moment and bring curiosity to the moment. And, what's happening? Oh yeah. In the last 3 minutes of the conversation, my chest started to get a little bit more constricted. Like, what is that about? And my jaw started to get a little bit more tight. How do I make adjustments based on an enhanced interoception? What is okay, I guess if we bring Foucault if we fold Foucault into the discussion, okay, and we're in the tissue of our discussion, then we would want to caution ourselves about, and I see this in the somatics community a fair bit, that, when we're doing interoception at a particular pacing and asking particular questions and so on, where might we be introducing, without intending to, where might we be introducing new regimes of policing in terms of when to say something, where to say something, how to say something, at what tempo and stuff. And I'm not talking necessarily, this isn't so much about the clinical elements. Like clinical stuff, this stuff just works, what we're talking about. I'm talking about training practitioners.
Yes.
Because what I see, because that's a power dynamic, right? When we're teaching people, we're giving them a type of power. You know what I mean? To hold that space for people. But then what I noticed, and I first noticed this when I was studying nonviolent communication, and I was thinking to myself, shit, this stuff is violent. And I'm like, well, why is it so violent? And I was trying to think to myself, well, what is it about this stuff? And it's this, and then many years later, I read Foucault and I was like, yeah, that's microfascism. Holy shit. Yeah. And because the person that has the technology better is the one that's in control of the conversation.
Take the power.
Yep. So there we go. And then, to me, it's like, how do we train not just practitioners, but people that understand that they're getting a technology, that technology is power, and we don't want to see them sliding into transcendence.
Yeah.
And, just the propagation of new word policing regimes.
So something that I went back to France to study a couple of years ago is the work of Jean-Paul Rességuier, the one who started this whole thing for me. I never studied directly from him because I learned his existence later on in my life.
Cedric, how do you spell his last name?
Rességuier, Resseguier.
Okay.
And
I'm never going to be able to say that one, or it'd take a lot of practice.
He does. It's a very French last name. He put together a methodology that he called the noting, like making a note. And it really resonated with me because it talked a lot about Bergson as well, Spinoza, Deleuze, all those people. So sitting in his class was like, wow, it's like, serendipity, when you
synchronicity, serendipity. Yep.
And what it did, the foundation of this work is how to increase your level of attention so you're present without being here. And he called that la rupture épistémologique. Epistemological rupture, breaking things. And it's a state that this teaching is very, very intense. Very intense, through the flesh, through the mass, that remove you as much as possible to Cedric, right? To Cedric, the MRS teacher, the father. There is a level of intensity. That's right. That allow you to work, but you work underwater almost.
Yeah.
And it's the best thing I found so far. This thing that you don't take space anymore. You don't take space in the experience of the client, because what you're talking about is completely correct. Whatever it is, right? Non-violent communication, or we're going to tell you what's wrong, or like, no.
Yeah.
How can you be present without taking any space?
Yeah. Well, this is, okay, so because you had brought the image of a crack before. Yeah. And in terms of your framing of the work and you're doing the work of sensation and interoception, and then you kind of find an emotion to descend through the crack into the subconscious?
Into the flesh, into the subconscious.
Into the flesh.
That's right.
And then Yeah, go ahead.
No, for me, I would say the flesh itself is a part of the subconscious, right? It's if you go back into in this loose version of the body without organs, when you enter the flesh, you enter a subconscious.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. You got trillions of cells in there, and all of them have this kind of weird phylogenetic history and clappings and gnashings and eatings and bacteria in our guts devouring each other. Omnisexuality, that was a term from Lynn Margulis, omnisexuality and, horizontal gene transfer and all this crazy shit happening in our body without organs, right?
It's the cosmos.
It's the cosmos. The cosmos is in the clinic. I really love that element of Deleuze. In terms of the clinic, to get this great clinical result when people are suffering, boom, we're going down through this crack into the body. And it's important to have a container for that. But to me, not only important, essential. You gave us this alchemical vessel image. And so this image of doing clinical work, of descending through the crack of the emotion and kind of embodying in a contained space to rewire the prediction apparatus, that's awesome. That's good clinical practice. However, the deeper work at a sociological level, and to me, the deeper work with which we can't really do all the times in our clinic, it takes really imaginative, really resourced, somewhat whole people to be able to do this cracking thing. Right? Because what in clinic, we're working on building containers a lot of times. And in order to do the work, of course, we need to break things down. But this epistemological cracking and kind of Deleuze's image of, okay, we need to break language. Okay, if we want to get at the real body without organs, we need to fucking break language. To me, in somatics, it means breaking the structures of the face. The structures of the face are so put upon and written upon by all these social rules.
That's what's the mass, right? It's the mass.
Yeah.
Bergson talk about the mass. So when I work with a client, I don't look at their faces. I usually look at their chest, whatever I can see on camera, ask them to bring the screen a bit down so I can see the mass. And I talk to their face. I look at their face when we have our social encounter. So the first few minutes, and then there's a rupture. For example, when I start working, I think after they talk to me about the social stuff, and okay, let's see. So I do something like, let's go. Now your face, okay, we'll see. That's not very important. Tell me about, and then we go. And then I focus on the shoulder, on the mass. And almost this, as I said, it's mass to mass. And that's, And
that's the mask of identity in relationship with the other mask of identity. And when I'm hearing these more radicalized methods, which don't often have much of a home in our treatment rooms because we got to pay the bills and we need to get good pragmatic results so that people will be coming back and so on. But the more radical ruptures that are needed for revolution and for radicalizing the body into the next level of vitality, it's actually, to me, it's not about container building. It's about smashing the local container.
That's right.
And getting bigger.
That's right.
And then smashing that container and then getting bigger. And then
that's right.
That's where
we do something called the impact question, right? So the memory stuff is a beginning. You start and then when you're in this space, you hear things. You hear the fear behind the word, right? Because most of the fear are not spoken. They're behind in the silence almost, right? They're behind the word. Then you're gonna go with in Immanence what you call impact question, which is there to. And I tell the clients before, I said, I'm gonna say some things sometimes that are not gonna be kind.
Like how's that working in your life? How's that working in your life, Cedric?
It's a bit more precise than that. They give an example.
It's precise.
Yes. No, it's super precise. But I mean, for a specific session, for example, somebody who come to to see me because they cannot have any kids, right? They deal with infertility. And we're going to work on fear and stuff like that. And a question that I might ask is like, how does it make you feel to know that you will never get pregnant? And, all she wants is to become pregnant. But what's the fear? The fear is to never become pregnant. So let's face it, now that we're together, now that it's safe, how does it make you feel to know that you will never be pregnant? Sensations, MRES. And then you can shift the question. How does it make you feel to know that you're not even able to become pregnant? Guilt, shame. So this in every question is going to be different based on the situation, the person, but that's exactly what you said here. I think it's Foucault who said it, and I'm not sure. So you can correct me. I think Foucault, somebody said, kindness is a white evil. When you're kind, you're not ethical often. How can we spend 1 hour together and I can be as ethical and safe as I can? Ethical because I will ask the question that will create a crack. And I will be completely here in your flesh. We're going to go. And by the time that we're done, it will take 90 seconds, maybe a bit more. But by the time you're going to enter this fear is going to swallow you and it's going to spit you out.
My wife is from Siberia. And
mine too.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
We gotta have that dinner, man. We gotta have that dinner.
My wife's from Siberia.
Wow. What part?
Abakan. I mean, she was in her family is in Abakan now, Irkutsk. It's by Baikal. We went there, Irkutsk, yeah. So this is
very shamanistic, Lake Baikal. Very trippy place. Yeah. So she, my wife reports that, some of these old Russian wisdom bearers that they, and teachers and stuff like that, in the middle of class, they would throw boots at students. Which, by way of, kind of like uncoupling from kindness is the gold standard of all human contact or something like that, or therapy. And it's really, kindness is useful until it's not. And, with these very stubborn patterns, I like to say, a lot of people, especially in the context of couples therapy, a lot of people are just allergic to healing. And I'm saying that as if we're not, or something like that. Like we're allergic to new viewpoints. We're allergic to come out of our predictive processing and our own simulation of our own hallucination.
Because it is safe to us.
Yeah.
Our own constant pressure, it's safe. It's like an abusive relationship, right? It's what it is. You stay there because it's safe in a way. That's all you know. So you don't want a relationship.
I love that. Our own unique hallucination of the world and how we predict and project that is an abusive relationship. That's quite interesting.
I tell my clients often, I said, you keep on dying from events you survived a long time ago. We keep on dying because of the anxiety, because of the stress. We keep on dying from events that we survived years, decades ago.
Yeah.
And we're staying there, just like in an abusive relationship, because we know it. It might be toxic. It might be killing us, but that's what we know.
Yeah. Say this guy's name again.
Rességuier.
Rességuier. Interesting. I do my teaching of clinicians. Clearly you do that too. Don't you find also that you yearn for, something outside the capitalistic model or something where it's just about humans coming together and innovating? And well, that's where I go with this guy's work. And maybe this is my yearning. I suppose I'm projecting this onto you and I'll just own it for myself. And it does go to me being in a formulation stage of visionary somatics in my book coming out, the next level of my work. Because I taught a particular model of trauma resolution for a long time. And even with this new model coming out and a school developing out of that, I'm still with Foucault in terms of I want to have a space that minimizes just creating more structure, and to go into this place of getting the hammers out, and really getting wild and intense with what's actually there in the body without organs.
That's right.
In terms of the social dimension. And this isn't just clinical or training clinicians is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about groups that can come together in an innovative space and express intensity together. That's one of the things that I'm interested in.
Well, when you put it together, call me and I'll be interested to participate, right? Because yes, of course, that's the idea. It's so almost, I don't know if the term is correct, but deshumanizing, right? Moving away from some will call the ego, the self, to go into the substance. Go into the substance.
Go into the substance. The substance.
Mm-hmm. Spinoza says, I'll say it in English. Two essence have no difficulty to encounter themselves within the plane of immanence.
Can you say that again?
Mm-hmm. The translation might not be perfect. Two individual essences have no difficulty encountering themselves on the plane of immanence.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have an essence, you have an essence, but we're all made out of the same flesh.
Mm-hmm.
We all are fold on the flesh. And when we go into this place of immanence, this intensity, we still keep our essence, but that's life flow in a different way.
Yeah. Well, so I'm totally game. I wrote about this stuff. I'm glad that you're interested. And for the audience out there that want a kind of cauldron of innovation and exploration where we're actively going into this body without organs space, I do have some ideas about that. If you're excited about it, just email me. Go to the somaticdoctor.com website, join the newsletter, etc. And we'll brew something up. I really do think we need a place that's just, kind of beyond just getting better, so we can be better cogs in the capitalist wheel or something like that, So we can just be in the intensity and anyway, that's enough. And let's get back to you, Cedric. I want to give folks an opportunity to connect with your work and how to contact you, and giving them a sense of where your trainings are done. And just give them a sense of your trainings.
Sure.
Me after kind of getting my boot out against capitalism. And then I pitched my work and now your work. So it's probably not the best intro, but hey.
But also we have to use a word, right? The flesh of the words, as you said. The flesh of the voice to communicate. If not, how do we communicate? To answer your question, the best way is to go to emotionalhealthinstitute.org. or emres.com, EMRES. There they will have information about what we talked about certified practitioners, and about courses. Most of our courses, if not all of our courses right now, are done via Zoom. Since the pandemic, we didn't really go back into in-person when we teach therapists, coaches, HR professional. We kept it on Zoom because it allows us to have people from all around the world. We have people from New Zealand, South Africa, and of course the time is not the best for everybody. It's difficult to find a perfect time for everybody in this type of situation. But it's all on Zoom. It's all very interactive. It's all very hands-on. And once you are certified with MRES, we have another module called MRES for the body, where we focus on physical symptoms. And from the physical symptoms, getting in the physical symptom to find those unconscious fears that fuel the symptoms. And we have, it's a whole body of work. So to answer your question, emres.com will take you there. You'll have the classes, directories, and of course you can ask any questions that you want there on the site.
Brilliant. And then you work with private clients in Oakland there. Your office is in Oakland.
Yeah, I work with private clients everywhere. Yeah. I work on Zoom. Yeah. Same thing with the pandemic. So I receive people. That's what I do all day long, really, is seeing clients. And you can find my page on the website as well, if people wants to work with me. That's what I do. Keep on exploring, keep on learning, keep on reading and growing. A work is never static. It's always alive. And if we stop exploring, if we stop being curious, if we stop experiencing in our own flesh, it becomes stagnant. So it's constant, it's alive.
That's a solid Epicurean way of explaining things.
You know,
The curiosity, the flavor that you got to learn to savor what's there, you know, and that's one thing that's also hit. We didn't talk about resilience. I mean, you mentioned it. Packaged differently, that all this work, all this somatic work and moving stuff out of the way and clearing the bad stuff from the past and all of that. Well, back to Epicureanism, what does that help you to do? Savor life. Savor life, right?
That's right.
Just and to be curious about it and to live in the present and take delight in this short life before we die, you know? And
you know, the first one to talk about atoms was Epicure. Epicure said everything. I mean, he talked about atom before knowing that atom existed. He talked about atoms, saying everything is made out of atom. The soul, if it exists, is made out of atom. Or some will say the soul might be in between the atoms.
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
In the space, maybe it's in between. That's l'élan vital of Bergson, giving a flow, flesh, motion to the atoms. Like, rah.
Hisses, my friend Cedric. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Thank you for the opportunity, Brian. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. It's really been a pleasure.
Yeah, same here.
I hope to see you again.
Yeah, we have dinner.
Okay, sounds good now.
Thank you for listening to the Boundless Body Podcast. Please like us, share, subscribe, and until next time, stabilize, catalyze, and thrive.